Here are 3 films to expand your consciousness on Palestine and Israel. And you can watch them all for free online. And these are going to be especially relevant if you're American. And let me just preface all of this by saying something that I haven't really heard anyone address yet. And that's the fact that Palestine and Israel is not about Palestinians and Israelis. This is not a conflict between the Palestinian people and the Israeli people. In fact, I would go as far as to say that there's no such thing as Palestinian people and Israeli people. There is one people who have no idea what they are yet. Because like I said yesterday, the core issue in this situation is Israel's refusal to integrate.
Jan, why is it Israel's responsibility to integrate?
Because Israel has the power. Because Israel is the settler colony. Israel is the foreign entity that has been imposing itself at the expense of a native population for the last 75 years. It doesn't begin and end with Netanyahu's government. Jewish people from all over the world warned of the fascist inclinations of Zionism from the days of its conception. Look up Albert Einstein and Hannah Arendt's letter about the Nazi-like policies of Menachem Begin's government. So this isn't a conflict. It's an occupation, not only of the Palestinian body, but of the Israeli mind. Because like I said yesterday, everyone is a victim to the economic interests of empire's outpost.
But Jan, what about Hamas and the terrorists?
I'm not going to run through the whole history of Hamas for you, but let me just say real quick, Hamas doesn't exist without Israel. Hamas was born within an Israeli-occupied Gaza. Here's the real kicker. Israel helped create it. Yitzhak Segev, a former Israeli official, told the New York Times himself. Let me read it to you. He said they helped finance the Palestinian Islamist movement as a counterweight to the secularists and leftists of the Palestinian Liberation Organization and the Fatah Party, led by Yasser Arafat. Avner Cohen, former religious affairs official in Israel, said Hamas, to my great regret, is Israel's creation. Cohen is one of the people who lived and worked in Gaza in the 1980s. He warned his superiors at the time not to play divide and conquer in the occupied territories. But did they listen? Spoiler, they didn't. See, because the PLO at the time was doing a really good job of setting up a strong secular center for the Palestinian people. And the exclusionary apartheid settler colony did not like that. Okay, I've been ranting for 3 minutes and I could go on forever. Let's get into these movies. But just remember, you're watching one people, one entity, rejecting itself. All right, let's go. Number 1, Gaza Fights for Freedom by Abby Martin. Abby Martin does a great job of giving you a direct, first-hand account from people living with the situation in occupation in real time. And the best part is that she does a great job of keeping it unbiased. It's focused around the protests of the Great March of Return, as in people marching to return to their homes, okay? Can you imagine a life where you have to protest for your right to go home? It's well-researched, it's in-depth, it's insightful. Interviews with civilians, medical professionals, journalists. It's great, it's got English translations where needed. Abby Martin is American, go watch it. Number 2 is Occupation 101, The Voices of a Silenced Majority. This one is by Sofiane and Abdullah Mish, and not only does it show you the impact of occupation on the lives of Palestine's native population, but it also shows you the very influential role that the United States has played in the region. It shows you how the occupation infiltrates the economic, social, and psychological lives of people growing up in Palestine every single day, and how the implementation of its policies is the number 1 driver deepening the divide between these two communities. And most importantly, it shows you how Palestinians are silenced and marginalized in international conversations via the Western media's dehumanization of them. And I've experienced this firsthand. The effect of this propaganda on Western people. Yesterday in the Twitchiverse, someone was talking about how they saw footage of Hamas kidnapping people, how disturbing and traumatizing and heartbreaking it was. And it is. Any injustice against humanity is a problem. So I said, imagine that happens to Palestinian children every single day. And you know what they said to me? They were like, no, I don't think that happened. If that were happening, somebody would film it. You know, since no one has the mass genocide of North Americans on tape, I guess it just didn't happen. I mean, if it were real, wouldn't the CNN be showing it to me? If you're watching this, I love you, okay? It was just a great example of how occupation is not only of the body, but of the mind. All right, film number 3. Life in Occupied Palestine by Anna Baltzer. Anna Baltzer is a Jewish-American filmmaker, and she was living and working in the West Bank with the International Women's Peace Service. And her documentary gets into the political and the humanitarian aspects of the occupation. She shows you firsthand the consequences of the things that Palestinians deal with every single day. Restricted movement, land confiscation, separation barriers, encroachment on their agricultural activity, the cutting down of ancient trees, the struggle to obtain the most basic of things, water, panadol, visiting your mom in the next town over, farming your crops, going out for groceries without ending up in prison. And you thought your life was hard. In Palestine, you can't go from one town to the next without crossing through a military checkpoint. So a trip that should only take you 5 to 10 minutes can take several hours, if you're lucky. Like I said yesterday, there are a lot of films, books, resources out there for you to educate yourself on this topic. Lots to look for outside the propagandist material that you're used to seeing. Here's a little bonus. If you're interested in knowing just how much influence the Israeli lobby has had in America on American foreign policy, check out The Israeli Lobby by the Dutch filmmaker Marij Meerman. And if you want me to give you more resources, more movies, more books for you to learn about this, or you just want me to rant about it a little bit more, let me know.